You asked me about
How
that.
far along in this are we?
I'm gonna get some.
What do you mean,
pizza.
how far along are we?
I
You
don't
asked me
know.
like percentage-wise? I mean, there's a half a bottle of whiskey in front of us. So we're halfway towards the
do we
beginning.
need any more ice? Are we good on?
Yeah, I'll need another cube, please.
Yeah, I'm gonna vomit tonight now.
In 1999, in August, I went and I showed work to Sports Illustrated, right? Jimmy Colton took my meeting, luckily, and I'm showing him all my work, and like it's really cool. And he's like, "Oh man, this is good. Like I like it." And he's like, "Hey, you know, if you have an idea that you want to pitch to our magazine, hit us. Like, let me know." He's like, "I do the whole like leading off section in the beginning. It's like the 3 double-page spreads of stuff, and a lot of times it's action, but sometimes it's just like like a quirky little thing, you know." And I'm like, all right, cool. So like I get in the subway and I'm like, I write up like 250 ideas of like everything, and none of them are really good. But I'm like, oh, I'm gonna pitch him this, I'm gonna pitch him this, I come to my senses by the time I get off the subway. I'm like, all right, I need to really come to something good. Like if I want to work for Sports Illustrated, right? So I'm doing a test shoot with a female boxer a couple weeks later, and she's like, oh, I'm getting ready to go down to Augusta, Georgia to go do the first female Golden Gloves competition. I'm sitting there going, this is Sports Illustrated. I'm pitching this. So I call up Jimmy the next day and I said, hey, you told me to pitch you if I had a good idea, and I'd really love to go down to Augusta, Georgia to go photograph the first female boxing event, like the first like Golden Gloves amateur thing like ever. And I want to photograph all the contestants and like, what do you think? And I swear, I was like 2 seconds, Jimmy goes, yeah, I'd sign that. I was like, is that really how easy it is to get a job? That was my first paying gig ever. And I went down and I photographed 54 female boxers and over 3 days, and Sports Illustrated ran 18 of them over a double-page spread. So my first, like, anything was 18 pictures in Sports Illustrated. Okay? And
You got more than the day rate for that one, huh?
I did exceed my day rate. My day rate was $500, and I got a $1,200 space rate for that.
Oh.
I'm glad you were listening during your tutorials,
Space
my
rate.
friend.
I know what space rate is.
You know
now.
what space rate is. Mr. Serber over at ESPN Magazine let you know. And so from 99, I didn't go off on my own until August of 2002, okay? So we're looking at 3 years before I started working for a magazine or doing my first shoot for a magazine by the time I went off on my own.
Yeah.
So when you ask me, what did you do in that like year before you were like in like your twilight years, let's call it, of like my assisting career, I was hustling. I was still assisting, but I was balancing it with shooting. So I started doing some work for Men's Health, and this was through a photo editor specifically named Ernie Montiero. And I met her while I was a photo assistant for one of those photographers that I'd worked for out of like that whole roster of like 150. And I'd met her, we jogged, everything was cool. She knew I knew what I was doing. She's like, why don't you come and show some work? I show some work. And she started hiring me consistently, and more consistently than anyone. She gets embarrassed at every like talk that I do that she's there, where I say like, there's 2 people that I like attribute my whole career to, and it's Miguel,
The grip guy,
for hooking me
Studio
up with
guy.
all the equipment, and Ernie Montiero. And she's like, that's bullshit. And I'm like, it's not bullshit. Like, without you, I would have never been able to make that jump. She started hiring me for like what they call front of the book in magazines, which is like the real small images or like a little story in the first like 20 pages before they get to the features. And so she used to hire me probably 3 times a month. And I was shooting, I mean, it didn't matter to me. I was shooting some guy shaving, I'm shooting something else. Like, it was all over the place, but she had confidence in me as a photographer. We got along well, I always delivered, everything was cool. So without that money from 3 editorial shoots a month, right? Which, I might have ended up making maybe $2,000.
You would have had a hard time just surviving.
I would have had a hard time surviving. I mean, like, I was assisting. I could assist like crazy. Like, when I peaked at assisting, right? And I was doing awesome at assisting. Like, assisting great people, all the stuff. You're capping out at like $60K. And that's when you're working your ass off.
Yeah.
Because at $200 a day for editorial at the time, and $250 for advertising at the time, you can make hundreds of dollars a month. It's like, so it was one of those that one photo editor literally changed the course of when I was going to go off on my own. So I was able to like build up a little nest egg. I was actually making money from shooting, and she wasn't the only one. I had some other clients, and I was getting other clients, but I literally counted on that money to like get this going. Miguel's giving me free equipment to shoot all these jobs, right? And so that is when my equipment rental thing was like, I need to start an equipment rental house. Miguel's giving me free equipment. I go shoot for Men's Health, and I bill them for the equipment, right? I'm sitting there going, this is the margin.
Yeah.
We get $500 for the creative fee, but I just banged out $900 of gear. That changes your margin.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, from like $2,000, you're making $4,000 in the month. Men's Journal starts hiring me, and they start hiring me to do all their fitness stuff. I've shot more guys with their shirts off, sweating and like doing all these exercises than you ever know. I mean, I did that for 5 years. I did all of Men's Journal.
This is like 2000, 2001?
I started doing that stuff I started doing Men's Journal stuff right near like the end of my assistant career. But yeah, all this is like 2000.
It's just funny to think I probably in college had some of these magazines, and I'm looking at Monte's work.
Yeah.
Men's Health or whatever, Men's Journal.
Every single time that you were sitting there like staring at like men like with their shirts off,
I
all
wasn't,
sweaty.
to be clear, I wasn't
those were
staring
totally
at
my
them,
photos.
but
Those were totally mine.
Yeah. I was admiring the photography.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. You were admiring my craft, and I appreciate that. And so, so I was getting some gigs, and then like, I tell the story in Jim's interview in the tutorial about like a photographer's phone going bunk, like in the middle of the shoot. So I become the point of contact as a photo assistant for that photographer to the deputy photo editor at ESPN. ESPN says, hey, like I've enjoyed like just dealing with you. Everything's been great on this like 5-day journey you guys have been going around. Why don't you come in and show some work? All of a sudden I start shooting for ESPN magazine. Like it's like I was gaining clients slowly, but I was still assisting. And it's tough to balance that because when you get a shooting gig, but you're already booked on an assistant gig,
you have to coordinate the replacement.
Got to coordinate the replacement, and no one likes when you bail on them. Like, hey man, I said I was cool with that, and like we're good for that day, but I got a job. Not everyone loves that.
Yeah.
Some photographers wouldn't hire me again.
Some were proud that you.
And some encouraged me like, awesome. And that really told me who I should be working with and who I shouldn't be working with.
Yeah.
I start meeting with some agents. It's cool. Agents are liking what I'm doing because I'm making money. They're liking the work I'm doing. So I say, I'm going off on my own. September 1, I'm out. No more assisting. I'm ready.
What a time to pick.
I'm ready. I got like $15K in the bank.
Yeah.
Like I'm ready. Most money I'd ever had in the bank in my life. Some assholes decide to fly some planes into some towers about 10 days later. The economy comes to a screeching halt. I've already told all of the guys who are hiring me, I'm out. I'm going to hold it out. Like, let's see how this is going to go. Like, I've been getting these gigs. Like, it's cool. Ernie's been good. She's been able to get me some stuff. It's like radio silence. I don't get a call until November. Okay? September, October, November. All of a sudden, I'm like, I just went 2 months without making $1. No, I'm sticking to it. I have an agent coming over tonight. Like, this is going to be it, right? Like, I have a feeling this one's going to bite. Like, they're really interested. They're interested enough to come up to my home. So I'm sitting there with an agent. We're looking through my work and everything, and my phone rings. I answer it, and it's an assistant who I know. And she says, hey, I'm working for Gregory Heisler, and right now he has like 2 like gringos working for him, like just 2 like young bloods who don't know shit about shit. Can we bring you in as like a ringer to teach them how to assist? Well, little do you know, I'm actually meeting with Greg's agent, who's sitting next to me. And I said, I've never worked with Greg. I've always wanted to. It's always been kind of like ships in the night. I was like, yeah, I'm in. Like, what do you got? And I get off the phone, and he said, and as he heard me kind of talking about the details, he goes, who's that? I was like, oh, that was Cheryl. She works with, Greg. And he's like, I thought so. He's like, you're going to go work with Greg? I was like, yeah. And I think that was a moment where they were like, all right, he's still assisting. Now, that agent obviously didn't make me an offer to say, hey, come on with us. But I'm glad they didn't, because my education I got the next year working for Greg Heisler was like, what some people pay hundreds of thousands of dollars to go to like an Ivy League school. I went to like the Ivy League School of Photography with Greg Heisler over 1 year. And the cool thing is that Greg treated me like a peer. He didn't treat me just like an assistant. He already had 2 assistants that he just treated like assistants.
Yeah.
They didn't know shit about shit. He kind of inherited one of them, and one of them was like an intern who just like wouldn't stop showing up. Like he fired him, and he just kept showing up. And Greg's not so confrontational. He was kind of like,
He's dependable.
No, I
He's
mean,
there.
We got an extra set of hands.
Yeah.
And so, so I came in and I really kind of taught these guys how to assist. And Greg and I got on like a house on fire. Like it was like we got on so well. And like, he's from Chicago, I'm from Chicago, and like we're both like talkers and storytellers and characters. And like from the beginning, it was like,
yeah.
And so Greg always treated me so well. He would ask my opinion on stuff like, what do you think I should do here? Like, and I would say this, that, and that. And like, and I wasn't bashful, obviously. And I'd been in the career so long enough that I was like, what's he going to do, fire me? Like, fire me for speaking my mind? I'm like, yeah, man, this is what I would do, this, that. And like, what do you think? And he's like, all right, cool. He's like, oh, well, what about this? And like, and we'd talk that way. You were asking me about like, did I work with any like cool folks with Greg, or were there any like notable jobs or anything? There was one that was really, really great, and we were going out to New Jersey to go photograph Bruce Springsteen. He was coming out of retirement, and we were shooting him for the cover of Time magazine. And so the publicist tells us like, hey, cool, like you have 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. But at 4 p.m. it's like a hard out, like you're out. Cool, hard out just means like at 4,
No matter what you're doing.
like your wheels are turning and you're leaving. Like it's not like, oh, let's start to break down. So Bruce Springsteen owns a bunch of houses out like near like Asbury Park. He's bought a whole bunch of them. And so he has this one farmhouse out there, and that's going to be the location.
So you're in Bruce Springsteen's house, and there's all these rooms and scenarios that you've never seen before.
Yeah.
There's not a scout sending you pictures of Bruce's house.
No.
So you walk in, and you're like, this room sucks. This is obviously like a guest bedroom, and it's like this. But this room, this is badass. And
Yeah.
like this hallways and the staircase, like these things are cool. But Greg is so meticulous on doing the pre-lighting and knowing the cover and like the important shots. And he's so technical, like you're saying. Do you find that he's like, what do you think? Should we shoot here or here? And like, let's do this. Is he exploring and being creative in the scenery that he's shooting, or is he like locking into something and being like,
Was it already pre-planned?
yeah, it was like pre-planned. It was a little more. There was an idea. If we have a room, we're going to do this.
One thing that Greg is really, really good at is that he's good at walking into a situation, assessing, does this work, does it not? Let's do here, let's do here. Why he chooses it, oftentimes it's for if it adds to the narrative of the subject. Maybe sometimes it's like, oh, because the light looks cool. I know that when you're an editorial photographer, that is the story of your life. Every editorial photographer walks into a situation, makes some assessments, says, we should shoot here, let's do this, and not so much over there. And that's the really cool thing about being editorial, in the sense that you don't have pre-lights, you don't know what you're walking into, but you have to kind of figure it out. And I know I struggled with that early on in my editorial career, because I'd walk in, I was kind of like, what am I going to do? And that is something that you start to hone. Greg's great at it. I never became great at it. So we get there, we start setting up, we're doing our thing, you know. After about an hour, Bruce comes in, and man, he's cool as can be. And I was never a big Bruce Springsteen fan. His music never really spoke to me, but yeah, he was all like, hey guys, how's it going? You guys good? You guys need anything? You know, whatever. You want some breakfast? You know, this kind of thing. We start shooting, and what we're doing with each shoot and each set that we do, we finish one, and then the other assistants take the gear and take it up to another location within the house that we already plotted that we're going to do, and then we shoot another. And because, I mean, we were doing, hell, let's see, I mean, we were shooting them for 8 hours. We probably did 10 different setups. And so we're always like revolving our setup. And as we're going, you know, it's time for lunch, and of course, you know, we bring like full on like catering, you know, like the chicken and the salmon and the couscous, whatever bullshit. And Bruce's like, hey, you guys want some lunch? Like, we're like, oh yeah, no, we have some catering stuff. He's like, well, I made you guys some sandwiches. When I mean made you sandwiches, he made sandwiches.
Like Bruce Springsteen.
He's like, hey, you say ham and turkey? Yeah. You want some mayo? What else do you want? What? He puts it on, and all of a sudden, like, squeezes it together, and the boss hands you a sandwich. I'm like, fuck the salmon. I've had the salmon 2 different times on catering this week.
Turkey sandwich.
I'm eating the boss's sandwich. And so, like, he was cool. Like, he made them. Like, he full on was like...
He didn't have somebody make them.
No, yeah, he didn't order it in. It wasn't that, like, he had some catering company. The fucking boss made a bunch of sandwiches. So we're like, how cool is that? Finish lunch, get back at it, right? We're banging them out, putting on these shoots. And, like, we're coming to the last one. And, of course, and we're photographers, like, they say 4 o'clock, we're going to shoot to 3:59. And, like, the other assistants are scrambling to break down all the other sets, get them in the truck, because, like...
And this is all for one picture?
No, they're doing a series.
We're doing the cover.
Series.
We're doing a cover, and then we're doing a feature on the inside.
Okay.
So when all the other assistants are like scrambling to get the stuff out, because like we have our instructions, and you respect those instructions.
If you break those instructions, who are you, like, if Bruce is cool, is there somebody else you have to answer to?
You could still have to answer to his publicist, and that could have blowback on the magazine. It could have blowback on you as a photographer, where that publicist who might represent 6 other people go,
that guy doesn't leave on time.
You're done.
No.
Like, and it really falls under the same shit my dad was saying. It's like, you know, you do what you said you were going to do. We said we'd be out at 4, you get out at 4. Just how it works.
So it's 3:59.
So it's like, we're pushing it. Bruce, you cool? Yeah, I'm cool. Like, we're shooting this picture. It's like 3:59. Greg thanks Bruce, thanks him for his time, shakes his hand. Bruce is like, hey guys, you guys want to have beer? And we're like, hey Bruce, yeah, we were told 4 o'clock, we got to break this stuff down. Like, we're out. Like, that's like, yeah. Oh, come on, have a beer with me. And we're like, oh no, hey, thanks, man. But like, you know, we really have to, you know, kind of respect that.
Gosh, that sucks. That, like, you have this chance to probably have the greatest stories of your life with Bruce Springsteen.
Well,
but, like, the business of it. I mean, the story is the story now. But
right.
Like,
yeah, right.
So you have to decline.
Like,
the
you
beer.
have to decline, and like, and you know, I don't know if I was raised well. I don't think I was, but at least I knew the difference of like, hey, this is what you do, and you respect these things. And so I'm like, hey, man, Bruce, thank you, but like, I got to make sure I get all this stuff out in the truck. Oh, come on, man, come have a beer with me. And like, all of a sudden, he's corralled us all in the kitchen, and he's popping Coronas, he's cutting limes, and like, Bruce does not cut like a smooth lime. It's jagged as shit. I don't know how dull that knife was, but like, he's cutting limes where you're like, the boss just gave me a lime, yeah? And all of a sudden, there we are. It's past our heart out. It doesn't matter. And we're like, we're having a beer with Bruce. We're sitting there bullshitting and laughing and kind of telling stories. And it's like a 15-minute just like kind of hang. And it's like, dude, I think the boss just told me, have a beer. His music has sounded better to me.
Yeah.
Ever since then. Like it actually, like all of a sudden I started hearing it as like
he's like a real person.
as it came from a real person,
Yeah.
not just like someone like trying to put it on. And that is when, literally, that changed musically and artist for me.